R&B singer Angie Stone has died in a car crash, was heading to Atlanta when the van she was riding in crashed. What if the most powerful person in music wasn't just making stars, but also keeping things from people? Clive Davis ruled the business for many years. Icons' hits and fame were all his gifts to us. Things are changing now, though. Whispers turned into alerts. Lots of people are speaking out. What about the stories? No one thought they would be this dark. This is more than just music. History. It includes Diddy, Whitney Houston, lost tapes and secret deals. They didn't want you to see this side of Clive Davis. Let's talk about it. The mentorship that wasn't innocent. Something changed in the music business in 1994, and it wasn't in an office. There are rumors that it took place behind closed doors that won't go away. That's when Sean Diddy Combs officially started Bad Boy Records. This was the step that made him go from being a street performer to the hip-hop star of the moment, but if you look more closely, that success wasn't just due to luck or skill. The business world says that Clive Davis mentored Diddy, but from what people say, that guidance had rules. Words that had nothing to do with business bars or beats. Diddy is said to have started the terms by getting on his knees in a room with Clive in 1994, whether it was a real event or a metaphor. That moment became the scary beginning of everything that happened after Clive Davis did more than just run. A record company, he kept people out, the kind of man who could quickly make or break your career with just one phone call at 23 years old. Hungry and with sharks all around you. That kind of power doesn't look like a threat. It looks like a way out. Diddy didn't just take the help, and he used it to build an empire. People now want to know at what cost. The timeline doesn't make sense. I didn't have much experience. Few contacts or big artists to work with, but Bad Boy Records pretty much. Took off overnight. Not just success. Mainstream control. Craig, Mac, Biggie. Smalls and Noma. One hits. It all happened quickly, way too fast, and right behind it all. Clive Davis getting lines to move. Paying for the launch, opening doors. No one else could. People inside began to talk, and what they said wasn't about strategy. It was about deals. Allegedly, Clive had a pattern. He surrounded himself with young, ambitious black guys. He could shape men, to whom he could make a promise. Why did they make those promises? A cost one that was not written in any agreement. It wasn't just Diddy either, other artists. Some in public and others through leaks. All say the same thing. Clive's help always came with strings that couldn't be seen. The power dynamic was always one-sided, whether it was love, care, or complete submission. Clive set up the king, and everyone else, just people who play in his world. That power difference can still be heard in the business today. Watch how people talk on the web. It's not a tweet to say, Diddy made it. People say Diddy was made by Clive, and if that's true, then mentoring wasn't. Mentoring, it was trickery that looked like a chance. We've seen this happen with other moguls too. Men at the top giving advice, while taking advantage of people who are just trying to stay alive this time. Though, it wasn't just about getting to the top. The goal was to own the ladder, and everyone on it. This isn't about bringing up sexuality. It's about showing who has power. Because it's not mentoring. When someone like Clive Davis decides who sits at the table, and that person must either be quiet or give in. That's getting ready. Now that's power. No one talks about that kind of abuse until it's too late. The catch is that Diddy joined in order to stay alive, plan ahead or keep things secret. He turned into the master and learned everything from him. How sure they are, the handle, how they manipulated some people. Say he became an exact copy of Clive, right down to the worst parts. Some people used to think that Clive and Diddy were just partners in business. There are now a lot of ideas on the internet that say the opposite picture, of them always being together, even when Diddy was blamed for something bad. Clive didn't say anything up until now. When he finally spoke, there was a huge void of quiet. He wrote more than one book. He threw a bomb and explosion that was planned and managed, so that just enough truth got out while the real damage was hidden. And Diddy, he knew it. He's also not going to be quiet. This is because when the puppet master cuts the ropes, the puppets swing back. And if you thought the relationship between Clive and Diddy was weird, wait until you see who got hurt at Clive's biggest party. Because the next party is where Diddy's face disappeared, and people in the business started talking again. The photo that wasn't there each year. Clive Davis throws a party that makes everyone in the music business remember who is still in charge. His Grammy gala isn't just a party. It's also a public record. You are important. If your face is in the video, it should be, if not. You're fading something. Strange did happen this year, though. Diddy, who used to be Clive's crown jewel, wasn't there. There is no video, still picture or crowd shot. Nothing people noticed. Almost right away, fans on the internet started making comparisons with older years, and sure enough, Diddy used to be everywhere, so why not now? Especially since his name has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. Every week, there are more raids, lawsuits and accusations against him. People first thought it might just be an update, but the time didn't seem right. Too clean, it's too quiet. And when Clive's team replied, they didn't say it wasn't true. They said the video was just made over, which is what they do every year, not a big deal. It was just a turn. It was clear to everyone that something was wrong. Unless it has a purpose, you don't delete your most well-known student when he is at the height of his fall. It wasn't just about switching pictures. It was about keeping yourself safe. It was planned to be quiet. Nobody heard Clive say a word, but everyone knew he was taking a step back. It was more than just bad luck. This was a planned move. That's because Clive Davis is an exact person. He has always had a quiet, smooth, and measured power. He was sending a message through looks by leaving Diddy out of that video, which is something he's done for decades. The music business knows these themes better than anyone else. They got it very clearly. It's no longer about friendship. When someone as strong as Clive pulls away from you during a scandal, it's about staying alive. The party stage and screen are all put together. Like a royal gallery, Diddy didn't just leave by chance. He was taken away, scrubbed, forgotten, and the sound of nothing said it all. The tone changed as soon as that picture went missing. A lot of people began to move away. Fans and people who work there, working together deals on brands. Some connections that seemed impossible to break started to fall apart, and Diddy, who used to be right next to the music. King looked like a ghost, not because he was found guilty, but because Clive thought he wasn't worth protecting anymore. The reason given by Clive's team may have seemed innocent, but it meant something very bad. This man built Diddy's business, helped him get famous, and shaped how people saw him. Now he could not even leave one picture on the screen. That's not a mistake in the world of power. That's a message. But there is a twist that no one wants to say. Diddy didn't get here by himself. He was made by Clive, paid for him, raised him up. And the fact that Clive is now pulling back to protect himself makes us wonder what he knows that we don't. Because the people who were closest to Diddy didn't just ignore him. They taught him how to do it. And if the game involved lying trickery, or worse, Clive may have a bigger part too. Play than anyone is willing to accept, because you don't just break up with someone you helped. Unless you also end the trail. That lost picture wasn't just a message to everyone. You never know what kind of shot it was before the storm hit Clive's door. What about that storm? It was not from the press. This story went from whispers and rumors to full-on claims that Clive Davis may be the real mastermind behind everything. We're just now starting to see fall apart. It came from a woman named Jaguar Wright. Jaguar Wright. Versus the industry's darkest secrets. The music business listens to Jaguar, right? Mostly out of fear. She's not just making up crazy claims to get attention. She is calling out names, putting together clues and lowering the whole curtain. She said something no one else would have dared. Clive Davis is worse than Diddy. This was one of her most famous quotes. She really meant every word she did. More than just tell him off. She hurt him. She said that Clive was the planner, the person who wears the mask, someone who used the same playbook before Diddy even came along. Not just someone who gave Diddy the plan. She said that Diddy didn't just learn from Clive. He also became like him. Jaguar said that Clive had a trend. Young, hungry artists say he trained them with the promise of mentorship and big label deals. It looked like the contracts were a success, but they were reportedly used to keep people in line. People were dangling careers like prizes it wasn't a choice. Loyalty was expected, and giving up, that was the real price. It hurt even more when her claims fit so well with stories that other people had told in pieces. Over the years, Jean Dale, who is close to the Bad Boy group, talked about parties that didn't feel like celebrations. For me, they were like routines. Tupac once sent cryptic messages about how dark the business was, and Jean confirmed what he said, saying that there were Illuminati-style meetings with strange guests and unsettling energy, not just with Diddy, but also with the people who helped him get started. What's at the top of that food chain? Clive Davis, it was never just business. It had to do with power. Complete power. Who signs up? Who doesn't say anything? Who is erased? Who gets paid their every move? Party and appearance on an award show was thought out like a chessboard. Clive was strong without having to yell. He only picked who could talk. Jaguar didn't just say that Clive was a bad boss. She said that he had set up a whole system of silence, a way for young artists to learn how to follow rules. Smile and never ask questions. Where being loyal got you perks and betraying someone got you put on a blacklist. She even said that Clive chose his favorites in the same way that Diddy did. They were young, eager, and easy to shape. Plus, they had to play the game to get a shot. Even if the stories sound crazy, it's hard to ignore the picture when enough people start to see. It too, Clive's revelation years late. The world stopped for a second when Clive Davis, who was 80 years old at the time, said he was gay. Not because people were shocked that he was gay and straight, but because of when and how he told them, while Clyde was having a great career with Grammys, power, and influence. He chose to write a book about one of the most private things he had ever done. And not in a job interview, not during a live event on his terms, in his own words, and under his own direction. In a book, he wrote that he opened up after his second marriage. It looked like an easy sentence on paper, but there was weight to it. A carefully put line that broke decades of silence in a quiet way. But this is where things get weird. It was over with that second marriage. In the 1980s and 2s. Over 3. Clive told everyone about this. Why then wait? 30 years. This wasn't a kid trying to figure out who they are. This man came clean. A long time after the power moves had already been made, he was one of the most powerful guys in show business. It wasn't just a matter of personal taste. It was planned out because the business world was changing by 2. Almontine. There were more singers out. One more question was asked, and behind-the-scenes reports were spreading that Clive was dating other artists, mostly men. Many people said that this revelation did not feel like bravery. It was like a shield, a way to lessen the effect of any story that comes up later. Diddy, whose sexuality has been a subject of gossip for years, stayed quiet. He never said yes or no to anything, or made things clear. Clive, on the other hand, got praise online. While Diddy was called out, someone was made fun of for possibly being gay. People praised the other person for coming forward. But what if that light came at just the right time? Right before the shadows got too loud? Because Clive's story doesn't begin with love. If you look at the pattern, it starts with being in charge. The kind that gets talked about in contracts, mentorships, and deals that are done behind closed doors. When he came out, it didn't feel like the truth. It felt like a plan. Now that Diddy is being criticized and Clive has been carefully moved out of the way of the bomb, the question isn't whether Clive is bisexual. The question is whether he used that fact as a shield to hide something much worse. A rising star that got silenced before everyone knew about Diddy Andre. Harold was the star more than that. He was the founder of Uptown Records, the label that helped make R&B and hip-hop what they are today. He was smart, strong, and stylish, and had a lot of impact. He was the type of business leader who didn't just follow trends. He made them. They thought it was smart of him to hire Sean Combs as an intern. He was always one step ahead of the curve, but in a surprise move, that intern didn't just step up. He replaced him from intern to mogul. Diddy went from being a background player to a big name on the front page. While Andre quietly dropped out of the talk, the person who gave Diddy a chance lost everything to the kid he brought in. And the question kept coming up, how do you lose your whole business to someone you taught? This wasn't just a bad business deal. There was something more going on. There were many theories, but most of them pointed to Clive Davis as the culprit. This is because Clive was there with the keys around the time Diddy left Uptown and started Bad Boy. The most important thing about him was that he had the power to make or break anyone. And it's not an accident that Diddy went from being an intern to a big name in this business, while Clive was his boss. Some people in the business say that Clive saw something useful in Diddy that he could use. Diddy wanted things badly, was flashy, and was hungry above all. He was easy to shape. There was already one. Andre Harrell enough for Clive. Andre was too present, too independent, and had too much experience. Clive wanted to meet someone new, someone who rose quickly, but always remembered who was in charge. That's where the pattern comes back. A strong man who often picked out young, eager black men and made them stars. Not just because they were talented, but also because they were loyal, obeyed, and kept quiet. IY was the one he didn't. Andre, and as soon as Clive made his choice, things changed. Clive helped Diddy start Bad Boy, and all of a sudden, Andre didn't have a label. No drive, and no reason he didn't say anything. For years, he did well in interviews, stayed out of trouble, and never told anyone what really happened. But people saw the discipline. There was a pause. The way he smiled made me think he had a lot more to say, but didn't want to. Some say he was kicked out because they knew too much about what was going on. Some people say he wouldn't play the game, the way Clive wanted. There are videos online of Andre that make it look like he wants to be honest, but isn't it comes through in the stops, the choice of words and the changes in tone, like a man who has been through too much and knows what it means to speak too. Soon, because being quiet wasn't just smart in Clive's world. It was required was Whitney Houston. A voice or a pawn. People used to say that Whitney Houston's voice was a gift from God, but at some point it became more like a product and was marketed, sold, and used for profit until it broke. It looked like her life was full of UPS and downs, fame, love, and sadness. She has a lot of questions about her work, especially about Clive Davis, the man who was there for her from the beginning to the... And some people are still curious about whether Clive helped Whitney succeed or hurt her people who supported her. Say he had faith in her when no one else did. But some reviewers, especially those who knew Whitney, will say something different. That's what Bobby Brown's sister, Liola Brown, has said. More than once, her claims are sharp and hurtful. She said that Whitney wasn't just a star that Clive handled. She was under his control. Controlled right up until the end. The Kazakhstan show is a story that keeps coming up. Whitney was taken to another country to perform for a small group of people. It's hard to watch the video that's out there. She looked weak and was having trouble on stage. She was not the star. She used to be. A lot of people think that show wasn't a coincidence. It was supposedly set up under a lot of stress. Sources say Clive set it up so she could get one last check before being brought back to America for a full makeover. Insiders say Whitney and Clive had a big fight just days before she died. Some say it had to do with money. Some say it was about power. In any case, things between them had hit a breaking point. There was a lot of stress. Things were even more at stake. Whitney had been to and from rehab, and her health was not safe. But instead of getting some rest, she had to give birth again. Then there was the night she died, right before the Grammys and Clive's yearly gala. Here's where things start to feel bad. The party went on, downstairs, while her body lay in a hotel room. Upstairs, people from the industry chatted, champagne flowed, and Clive never called off the event. Many people have been troubled by that choice. Ever since some saw it as strength, it looked like rudeness to some, still in the days that followed. Clive was the center of attention. He gave statements, approved tributes, and shaped the story told by the media. Movies based on real. People were made. There were documentaries made. Songs were put out. Again, the money kept coming in through it all. But the question stayed who really gained from Whitney's fame after she died. Even Ray J's participation made people look twice. He is said to have been the last person to see her alive. Some people said that he let the drug dealer into her room. Some people thought he was using her name to get back into the press. After that, rumors spread of fake scenes, stories, and jobs to clean up the business. None of it has ever been proven, but it's all scary. And just when you thought it was going to get dark, it did reports say Whitney was rushed to rehab at the last minute, right before she came back to the United States. Not for healing, but to mark. It is said that Clive wanted her to look serious enough for a new rollout. A performance with R. Kelly was even being talked about as a way to improve her image. But behind the pictures and smiles, her health was quickly getting worse. It wasn't her throat that failed, according to the medical report. It was her lungs. Years of heavy smoking, drug use, and worry had worn him down. She couldn't breathe or hit the notes, but she was sent out as if she were ready for the stage, and the person who kept pushing her Clive. This was more than just a star's fall from glory. She was moving until she could no longer move because of the system, because Clive had an effect outside of the lab. It went through her last days, her death, and even the story that was told about her afterward. And it's not just management when someone takes care of your memory after you're gone. That's what it's being an owner. Whitney wasn't the only one caught in that web, though. Diddy is the name of the person whose silence has now been broken. We'll now talk about what he did. When Clive broke the silence, and how the student finally turned against the teacher. Diddy's response. Everything changed when Clive Davis gave away his book. There was no more silence in the music. Business, like there used to be, and Diddy wasn't going to let that go. He played the game, kept the lies, and kept up the image for years. But Diddy lost it when Clive started to talk. He did it loudly as well. It is said that the two men had a private argument, where they said mean things to each other behind closed doors, motivated by anger, betrayal, and fear. It didn't end there. Though soon after Diddy told everyone about it, he wrote very vague things on social media that were so clear. They could cut through the internet. You don't bite the hand that fed you unless it poisoned you first. And it was the most powerful lesson. Even though it didn't say Clive's name, everyone knew what he meant. The timeline suddenly blew up with subtweets, conspiracy lines, and crazy rumors. There were rumors of cases starting to spread. PR teams rushed to fix the damage right away. But for Diddy, the slide was already in motion. The raid on his home by the feds turned the stress into a crisis. Homeland Security swept in, devices were seized. Files were taken. What's on those tapes became the question everyone wanted to know. Not just what's going on. That's when the rumors hit. Overdrive, some insiders said, Diddy took videos of everything. Every group, every meeting, everything. Some say it was on their insurance. Some people say it was influence. But just the thought of those records existing and what they might have on them gave Hollywood chills. Names, faces, things that, no, one wants to be known about, and deep inside those files, maybe what Clive really knew. What he was in charge of and what he helped hide. A lot of people started to blame Clive, both as a guide and as a handler. Someone who may have helped keep the web tight, handle the tapes, and keep some people quiet. Now that the government is involved, this is more than just a problem. It could be a threat to national security. The kind that's not just music. The kind that can hurt people's reputations, jobs, and even use to their freedom. Did Clive get sentenced or cancelled? There's no headline saying Clive Davis has been jailed. No court ruling. No picture. But in the world he helped make full of well-dressed music stars and police-controlled stories. His silence says louder than any judge could. You don't need a jury to know the decision when the cheers stop, the invitations end, and the people you rallied start leaving. Clive Davis couldn't be hurt for years. He opened doors with his name and sealed memories with his approval. But now, even though no one has been charged with a crime, something seems to have changed. It's not the same at the galas he used to run. The rooms are still getting full, but it's cooler in them. There were no loud standing ovations, no honors in public, just handshakes and long looks that say more than words. Ever-could experts in the field aren't saying anything. Not that they don't have thoughts, but because they know what's at stake. Speaking out against a man like Clive isn't just risky, it's dangerous. His approval has helped people build their careers and hurt them when he wasn't there instead. Most people don't say anything, and that quiet. It says a lot. Younger artists, on the other hand, don't follow the old rules. They are pulling back quietly, separating themselves no longer, reposting old pictures, no more name-dropping, Clive and victory speeches, not because of what's confirmed, but because of what's known. The energy around him has changed. He isn't the wizard behind the curtain anymore. He's the shadow that people want to get away from. Some say it's a calm retirement. Some people call it exile. In any case, he is losing his grip. The wall of silence that used to keep him safe is now broken. He wrote carefully chosen lines to defend himself, and now those sentences may have broken the spell he cast for decades. Clive Davis might never go to jail or prison. He might not have to, though, because when power is what you use to buy things, losing it is like being sentenced, a slow and steady fall from the throne. He used to rule with great accuracy. There is only one question left now, that the empire is falling apart. Not in court, but in culture. Clive has finally been sentenced. Who else is about to be caught in the mess? Because this web is very thick, if you found this deep. Move eye-opening, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. Don't forget to click on the next video popping up on your screen. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.